What's up guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to the garage, welcome back to another new video. So we got the M3 here today and we're gonna have to do a little bit of updates. We just got back from the track, so we need to do a little bit of maintenance. Mainly we're just gonna be swapping the wheels back over to the E88s, but I wanna get them up in the air. We're gonna put the car up on the quick jacks. I wanna get the wheels up, off, and I want to get them taken off and clean like really well underneath. We are also going to be raising the rear ride height on the car, so I want to get some measurements taken. I want to see how much I need to raise the rear compared to the front so that we have the correct rake angle for the front of the car. And then once we get everything cleaned up and installed, car back on the ground, we have a new mod for the interior, and this is something we're going to be changing up. Just a little bit of a little bit more track spec mod for the interior. Still a really OEM piece, so you guys know I like to keep it really simple, clean, and OEM in here. But we have the Redline floor mats, obviously the pole positions with the Pepita inserts, the extinguisher from OEM Extinguishers. This thing's absolutely awesome. I really like having that one in here for the track days, as well as the one up here on the cage. Obviously, we have the JQ Works V2 steering wheel. This is the new podium line. That thing was actually pretty sick on track. I liked swapping to my my track map or mode or whatever you would call it with the different colors, and having these shift lights on while at the track was actually pretty sick. But we're gonna get some things changed up in here. I'll show you guys that in a little bit later. But the first thing we're gonna get the car up in the air, like I mentioned, get the wheels off, get everything measured, and then we can go ahead and get started on all of the little bit of maintenance on the M3 today. So let's get the car up in the air. Let's take the measurements for the ride heights, and then we can get cleaning both the E88s and the Bimmer World track wheels, and we can get this all sorted for our track day in 2 weeks. Alright, so we got the wheels all cleaned up. We definitely got some use out of these. You look, we're definitely wore through some of this rubber pretty good. It's kind of an odd wear pattern that I'm not really common to seeing. So like just the driver side looks like this. And then when we come look at the passenger side, it has a little bit of a different wear pattern. So we still kind of have this wear tread line still is here. A little bit more visible, but then a little bit more worn on the inside. And it's not a front to rear thing, it's almost a left-right thing. So not quite sure why it's like that, although I think we're basically through on these tires. As you see, they definitely had their use. We definitely got some life out of them. It's turning into like a slick down here. So not quite too sure why I'm getting that kind of wear pattern, but that's okay. Next up, we're up onto the ride height adjustment. So basically the issue that I was facing this weekend, that I think the front ride height is what I would say is too high, and that's causing, obviously, so if you have the car and the front sits up too high, then we're gonna have lift on the front nose and not what we want as downforce. So obviously the first thing to do would be to lower the front, but that is not possible due to running the 295s on these. To fit a 295 how I have it, I need the spring perch to be at this height, absolutely no lower. So if I can't raise, or if I can't lower the fronts at all, my next option is to raise the rear. Now I think this is probably a good idea anyways. I kind of had like a reverse rake going on. So if we come over here, I've measured my ride heights. You'll see in the front, I'm running about 26 inch of ride height. Now, don't take this for any serious numbers. This is only accurate if you're using a 295 35 AO52, because all tires run slightly different heights and whatnot, and depending on your alignment and blah blah blah. So this is mainly just a measurement for my reference, so don't use this for any of you guys. But I'm mainly just going off reference heights front to back. The total height doesn't really matter. So as you can see, 26 1/8 versus 25 5/8, 26 and 25 1/4. So we are definitely lower in the rear than we should be in the front. Now I do want the left side to be just ever so slightly higher than the right side, and that's due to majority of the time it will just be me in the driver's seat, and so you add some weight on that side and it will lower ever so slightly. So that's a little bit of compensation for that. However, that being said, this lip basically does not clear my driveway if I were to go any lower, and raising the front or raising the rear would indeed lower the front by just a little bit. That's the whole premise of increasing the angle of attack, which is what we're going for. So here are my thoughts. I'm going to end up raising the front approximately 1/4 of an inch, and then we'll be raising the rear about 3/4 of an inch. And now I want to say this because I want to raise the rear about 1/2 an inch. And if we raise the front 1/4 inch, I need to match that or add that to the rear. So add an extra 1/4 inch so that we don't get into this bad spot with the front lip, not making it out of the driveway. Now I know unfortunately it's not going to look as cool as it did before. I definitely prefer it to look a little bit better. And I think, you know, lower ride heights obviously look better. However, sometimes we just need a little bit more function over form. So we're going to be getting some added performance from this, hopefully. I'm probably going to have to go get an alignment as well this week. But we got everything back. We got the end plate back on as well. And so we should have everything good to go with the car. I'm going to go ahead and make these changes, measure them on both sides. I'll probably put the wheels up and down on the car a few times, lower it down, check ride height, raise it back up, lower it down, etc. This is where these quick jacks come into huge play and make it much easier. So I know in general my car is too low for the track. So if I want to start focusing on taking it to the track even more, that's all right. I guess it means we're gonna have to raise the ride height overall, which not fun, but you know, part of it. So I guess we'll get to getting this ride height sorted, and I'll come back to you guys with some updates. If I change any of my decisions or any of my plans, I'll let you know. It's a pretty simple walkthrough. I'm going to show you guys, I've shown you guys before actually how to change the ride height. I did it on the front. So it's really simple. So I'm going to get to the rear and then we can get this all sorted. All right guys, the car is back on the ground and I have everything dialed in. So I kind of got everything adjusted just how I wanted it. And we made 2 different changes. So we went up and then we went just a little bit back down just because I think the car was just overall a little bit too high for what I wanted. So I made a few more little adjustments and now I think we are at a pretty good ride height. So when we come over here, you can see I had like a bunch of paperwork or a bunch of notes just written down about all the different ride heights that we were kind of going back and forth over. So I want to start off, here, I'll show you guys over here. I want to start off with some of my ride height adjustments. I want to show you guys before I was at 26 1/8 and 26 in the front. Now we're at 26 3/8, 26 1/4. So our entire front end has raised by 1/4 inch. And then in the rear, we raised both rear sides by 5/8 of an inch. So that's a decent amount to raise the car. Now, I did get a chance to measure. I have a little bit of room. I do have a little digital angle measurement tool that lets me see the rake angle of the front splitter, and it is angled downward at a -1 degree. So that's the underside of the splitter is angled downwards at -1 degrees. So that is good. That is about the range that we want to be into to be able to get some effective downforce on the front end with the splitter. So hopefully it's slightly improved from what we dealt with over the last weekend. And then obviously the wing is really easy to change. I did get a measurement on this and we're looking like a -0.5 degree angle. So slope to down. Which really isn't too bad, but it's so easy to change. You just come in here, swap these bolts out, and we can change the angle. So I can run some tests, and I'll know, like, based on my current settings, I'll just measure at each of those 4 different holes, and then I'll know, okay, this hole is at 1 degree, this hole at 2, this is at 3, and we can kind of go from there on the different ride heights on the car and different levels of downforce for the rear end, and I can kind of play with that the next time we're at the track. Honestly, I think this looks pretty good. I don't think it really messed with the ride height look that much. Before, the front was honestly quite similar. 1/4 inch, you don't really notice. But in the rear, it looked like we had really good fitment and it was kind of like tucking a little bit ever so slightly. Now it's just a little bit more even to this front end, which honestly, it looks pretty good, and it looks a little bit more, it has a little bit more rake to it. So since we picked the back end of the car up, it added a little bit of rake, which can make the front end look just a little bit more aggressive sometimes. So I'm happy with the way it looks. Obviously, we are going for function over form. So we are trying to get some of the maximized performance out of our current setup on the car. And overall, I don't mind raising the car ever so slightly. I kind of planned on it anyways with this front splitter. We were so close to scraping this bottom corner on our driveway on exit. and I do not have the skid pads currently installed. So obviously once those get thrown on, they will probably scrape my driveway. So I'm happy that I was able to raise the front end by 1/4 inch. Hopefully that will save me a little bit, and I can make it out of the driveway just a little bit better. But now that we got the car back on the ground, I have that interior mod to go and change up a detail on the inside. So let's get to that. This should be a quick install, but it's gonna make a good little difference, and I'm excited to get it thrown on. So one of the things that I've always kind of talked about and not really complained, but always like made a little bit of a, I guess a little bit of a complaint about, is that when you get bucket seats like these Recaros, you do end up sitting quite a bit lower in the car. Now I have mine set to one of the lower positions possible, and it doesn't look very low on the bolt settings right here, but it is actually the lowest that I'm able to have the seat while having the eye bolt connections for the harness underneath, and it's actually touching. So it's like as low as this seat will go. And honestly, I don't believe that anybody would ever want to sit much lower than I already sit in the car. I think it's a good position for me. I have quite a tall torso, so I do sit higher up in the car than what other people might. But honestly, it's quite low in the car. It's even like, it's hard to tell on camera, but it's even like almost an inch lower than the passenger seat. So it is a very low seating position. And one of the things that ends up kind of coming into play is that the center console, this little armrest right here, ends up kind of jumping into the way of your elbow when you're sitting in the car. Now this isn't really such a huge deal for an automatic car. It's a bigger deal for any of the manual cars when you have to be constantly shifting and your arm is sitting in the middle of the car and you're shifting and your elbow is smacking that center console. Then it gets to be a little bit more of a pain. But I've kind of been debating, what did I want to do? I've spent some time, and honestly, I would love to do the full CS or GTS center console delete, where it just completely gets rid of everything here. And it's all one piece, all Alcantara. Looks really, really cool. But honestly, those are quite expensive. I've been looking at them, and they're like $2,000 to $3,000 in the used market. So I'm not really sure I want to spend that for something that's not a huge issue for me. It's more of just a little annoyance, and it doesn't really affect my driving, especially when I'm driving on track. So I found a guy on Instagram who was selling a kit from another place on Instagram. But this guy makes these special armrest delete plates, and they're pretty cool. So I'm gonna show them to you guys, and we're gonna get to installing it. So if any of you guys have ever looked or wondered, this is the armrest delete plate, and it's a pretty simple design. This is from M Junkie, so you can find him on Instagram, M Junkie. He makes these for all different series. So I know he makes them for F chassis. He makes them for E chassis if you have an E92, and I believe he makes them for a few others. But this is super cool. It's basically just a little delete. So what we're gonna do is remove the center console, just a little lid, and then we can slide this in place, and it just rests in place and is held in with this foam. But you can see it's much, much thinner. So we're gonna get like an extra 1 to 2 inches of clearance underneath our armrest. So this is pretty cool. It's just Alcantara with a little bit of padding on the top, and then just a foam backer. But this is sweet, so we're gonna get this thrown on. All we're gonna do is take out the armrest delete. This is really easy. You're just basically gonna come and pop out the back side, like the little venting in the back of the armrest. You're just gonna pop that out, and then there's a spring that you can disconnect, and then we can get this taken out of the car. Okay, so all you're gonna do is pop this lower middle section of the spring out of the place, and then you have these 2 pins that are in the middle, and they pull out from either side. So the one will pull out from this side and one from the other, and then the armrest will just come off, and it's pretty simple. All right, so once you get the spring disconnected, and then each side has a pin that you just need to press out, then the entire thing rotates up and comes on out from the car. This thing's actually quite a bit heavier than I was expecting. It probably weighs like maybe 5 pounds or so. Totally wasn't expecting that. I thought it would be a lot lighter. This probably weighs half a pound, if that. So we're gonna get it thrown in. I do have some stuff I just have to empty in there. I think I have like a little camera filter or something. But once we get it out, we're just going to empty this real quick, and then we can go ahead and fill it with the new piece, and then we just snap the back cover back on, and we are all set to go. And there you guys have it. The armrest delete is in, so you can see it is nice and flat. Fits really well, covers everything pretty nicely, so looks good in here. I definitely think the little bit of a lower shoulder or armrest is going to be nice inside the car, especially with the big seats. especially with the pole positions. They just sit a little bit lower, and so it's really nice to have the armrest delete in here. And the Alcantara looks good. It kind of fits, matches the steering wheel, and honestly, Alcantara just always looks good inside of these cars. Kind of a small little quick mod. Shout out to M Junkie. You can find him on social media or on Instagram. Shout out to him for making this cool little armrest delete and super cool little mod for the interior of the M3. Well, that's all for today's video, you guys. We got a few big things done to the M3. Still a little bit more prep to go before we get ready for the track event next weekend at back at Eagles Canyon Raceway. We are headed out there with NASA Texas region, so it should be a good event. Not quite as much seat time as Chin events, but still an overall good time, and got some buddies going out there, so it's going to be a good event, and we should be able to test some of the new aero. We're going to see how the car feels, and just see if raising the rear made any adjustment. I'm really hoping it added some noticeable downforce to the front end, possibly just adding some of that angle of attack to the front splitter, and we should be good to go. We still need to mount the new tires, so I'm gonna get these off at some point here soon. Give the car a quick bath. It is absolutely filthy. This rubber just gets absolutely plastered all the way down the sides of the car, always over the insides of all of the wheel wells, especially in the rear. There's just like always rubber that just gets all, I mean, like all of this is like sticky rubber that just, it's everywhere. So we're gonna get the car kind of cleaned up. Hopefully we'll give it a little bath so it looks good for the next track day. But other than that, we just gotta get the tires mounted. I'm probably gonna go try and get an alignment here sometime soon, just to make sure everything is still in spec and dialed in. We didn't really move the suspension that far, especially the front, probably no change. However, in the rear, there is probably gonna be a little bit of a difference. We did raise it a little bit more than half an inch. I'm excited to get this car back out on track. I just love doing track days in this thing. So we're gonna get these either the slicks or the RE71 RS mounted, depending on what the weather forecast looks like. If there looks like there might be a day of a little bit of rain, we'll probably throw on the RE71 RSs. Otherwise, we might go ahead and test ourselves, run some slicks on the M3. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching today's video. A little bit shorter. We just kind of got the track dirt off of these wheels. They were absolutely filthy. Adjusted the ride heights, and then that quick armrest in the middle from M Junkie. Shout out to them. It definitely makes a noticeable difference for your elbow, especially when you're using like the iDrive unit and your elbow just doesn't have to sit at this weird, awkward angle inside the bucket seat. So